Hey guys, um, welcome back to our channel once again. Thank you for clicking on that link. If you're new to our channel, welcome. Please subscribe and join the tribe, as we like to say here, and hit the notification bell after you've subscribed, so that you're notified of every video that we post. We drop videos every Friday, 2 p.m. West African time. All right. So without further ado, let's get right in. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about something which I feel that as locticians we don't talk about quite as much as we ought to, and that is lock frustrations. All right, and this topic has become extremely necessary because I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's something in the air, but let me say in the last 6 months, both online, amongst many lock gurus, lock OGs here on YouTube that I follow, and in real life, um, I've had transfer clients come in, um, who either just cut their locks or took their locks down. And to be quite honest, in almost all the cases I've seen so far, it's been people, I mean, in real life, it's been people taking down traditional locks to get smaller locks. Okay. Online, I've seen a number who actually had tiny locks, micro locks, sister locks, take them down, um, or combine to get larger locks. So um, it's been both ways, if I'm being honest. Just that personally, my clients, it might be totally random, but in my experience, clients who have come in have been people who used to have traditional locks or had traditional locks who are trying to go smaller. Okay, online I've seen the reverse. So I've seen enough that I decided, I think this is something that needs to be addressed. I have noticed that amongst all my clients, whether they're transfer clients or whatever, who have either cut off their locks or taken down their traditional locks or come in with larger size locks and had us take them down to get smaller locks, it almost always is invariably at the eighth month. I want us to talk a bit more about it. And this is not saying that I know the reason why. Um, I can understand why, most people who are going to take down their locks would probably take down their locks. Like I want to say, I'm going to try and give it a ballpark number. Amongst a subset of people who will eventually take down their locks, right? 75% of them are going to take down their locks between month 6 to month 12. But what I'm noticing, again, this might have been coincidence, is that most people eventually do it at the 8th month. Okay? And I have theories about that. One of them is the 8th month is like the peak period of what we call the awkward phase. At Olamalocks, we call it the awkward phase. You might have heard it elsewhere described as the ugly phase. We do not believe that there's any such thing. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to dwell on it today. All right. How quickly you advance to this awkward stage really depends on all these things, right? Your hair texture, how often you wash your hair, the kind of activities you're up to, if you had color or if you got color just before you locked your hair, because that also affects the texture of your locks. So various things, right? But most people usually reach peak awkwardness, okay, for want of a better term, between the 6th month and 12 months. All right. Now that I'm noticing there seems to be something about the eighth month. Maybe the eighth month is like, I don't know, the litmus test. Like if you get past the eighth month and you haven't cut your locks, then you're not going to cut your locks. I don't know. So I really want to know. So you guys tell me in the comments section, especially if you're a loctician or if you had, another set of locks and now you have a different set of locks. I'd love to know if this is not your first lock journey, if you're in your second or third. I'd love to know exactly how many months were you into your lock journey before you opted for another lock journey. And if you're a loctician, because I've just been 3 years in this game, so if you're a more seasoned loctician, I would love to hear from you. Is there something special? Is there like some magic about the 8th month? Please tell me in the comment section below. I'm really curious. I really want to hear. So the reason why this might be happening, like I said, I have my theories, and I've narrowed it down to 3 things. The very first one is, and this has been common to all the clients I've had who took down their locks before they came to me or came to me to take down their locks. There was no consultation done prior to getting the locks. None. Okay? There might have been a little bit of education about locks while the installation was going on or after the installation had happened. But prior to getting the locks, the loctician or the stylist or the whatever you want to call the person, the locks technician, didn't have an in-depth talk with their client where the client was allowed to ask all their questions, where they were provided with guidance, one about the best technique for their hair. And so if volume, if having big hair is important to you, and nobody told you that getting that particular type of lock you're going to get would result in you not having the volume, then understandably, it's good. Yeah. So what the consultation does is to help manage expectations before you then go ahead and make what, is pretty much a permanent decision, because locks are a permanent, I don't even like to call them a hairstyle. They're more of a lifestyle. But if you want to think in terms of, hair specifically, locks really are meant to be permanent. Okay? The second thing is that people fail to make the connection between the cost of installing locks and the outcome. By the time you come to the point where you've made that decision that you want locks, most people are pretty clear in their minds what they want their locks to look like. What a lot of people are not clear about, do not understand, let me put it that way, is that there's a very real connection between how much you are ready to invest in your hair and the outcomes that you get. I've done a whole video about this before, but I'm just going to say this very quickly in passing, that generally, the longer it takes to do an installation, the more money is going to cost to do that installation. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're a loctician, that immediately makes sense, right? Because we charge for time, amongst other things. So the more involved your installation and your maintenance is, the more money you're probably going to be charged. And right now, because locks seem to be the trend, especially tiny locks, depending on the number you're getting, and when I say tiny locks, I'm talking about anything 200, 250 and above. Tiny locks do take time, both to install and to maintain, and certain methods take longer to do than other methods. All right. So if you like the look or the outcome of tiny locks, and a lot of people tend to favor tiny locks because unlike the larger kind of locks, so especially if you are not somebody who is into extensions. You're not about that life. The appearance or the outcome of tiny locks in the beginning stages, in the early stages, tends to be more palatable to people um, than larger locks. That's a generalization. Again, all generalizations are false. Some people do love thick, luscious, unruly. They really like that thick, luscious lock look. But for those who favor a more polished, sleeker kind of look, they usually want to go for tiny locks. Again, the longer it takes to install your locks, the more involved your installation and your maintenance are, the more money you're probably going to be charged. Okay? And so because people do not put this into consideration, what then happens is that when they come to get their locks done, they are surprised by the charge and find themselves having to make a spur of the moment decision. And especially if budget is a concern, if you're going to make a on spur of the moment decision, most people would rather err on the side of going for the cheaper option. The problem with the cheaper option, though, is that it tends to be the less stable option. Okay, and so people wind up finding that they have to do their maintenance much more frequently, or they just don't like the look of it. Okay, a couple of weeks after, it might look nice and polished and all of that on day one, but in a few weeks they just do not like the look of it. Okay, the third thing is that a lot of people are not mentally prepared for locks. And this is the reason why I take time to explain to people about the phases of lock maturation and the fact that, except probably for instant locks, where you come in with your loose hair and a couple of hours and the time it takes for all your hair to be locked, you're leaving looking like you've had your locks for 5 years. Except for instant locks, every other kind of locks that is possible, that is available, of necessity, pass through all the phases or stages of maturation. If you are not settled in your mind, because I tell people, I say this almost every video I make, there is an aesthetic that comes with having locks. If that is not your aesthetic, if you do not have the self-confidence or the mental state of mind required to be okay with your hair being frizzy, to be okay with your hair being shorter, because it will shrink, to be okay with just presenting with your locks, with whatever is happening with your locks, with whatever they're going through, you might find yourself taking out your locks or cutting your locks between that period, the 6 months to 12-month period. Okay, so these are all things to consider before going to get locks. And if you have a loctician or a lock technician or a consultant who isn't ready to, even if they're not going to have a consultation with you, because those who actually offer consultations tend to charge, but even if they're not going to have a consultation with you, if you have somebody who cannot answer your questions, isn't upright or upfront or truthful, or seems to be unsure when you ask your questions, then maybe it's time to consider finding yourself another loctician. If you still want to go with that loctician, then all I'm going to say is do your due diligence, do your research, make sure that you're in the frame of mind or the state of mind for locks before you get locks. Okay? Stay blessed.